Can you be awake and sleep at the same time? Many animals need sleep. Even prince jellyfish enter sleep like a stick with their pulseless and respond more slowly to food and movement. But all of the threat and demands animals face don't just go away and it's time to doze. That's why a range of birds and mammals experience some degree of asymmetrical sleep, where parts of their brains are asleep and the other areas are more attractive. This is even true for humans. So, how this work? All vertebrate brain consists of two hemispheres, the right and the left. Brain activity is usually similar across the both during sleep. But during asymmetrical sleep, one brain hemisphere can be a deep sleep, while the other is in lighter sleep. And in an extreme version called unihemispheric sleep, one hemisphere may appear completely awake, while the other is in deep sleep. Take botanist dolphins. Their breathing is consciously controlled, but they must selfish for air every few minutes or they will drown. When they have newborn calf, they must actually swim non-stop for weeks in order to keep it safe. So dolphins sleep unihemispherically with just one hemisphere at a time. This allows them to continue swimming and breathing while snoozing. Other marine mammals also need asymmetrical sleep. First seal might wait weeks on end migrating at sea. They slip into unihemispheric sleep while floating horizontally, holding their nostril above the surface, closing their upper face's eye, and keeping their down-facing eye open. This may help them stay alert to threat from the death. Similar practices keep birds partially awake. Male dogs sleep in groups, but some must inevitably be on the prey. Those dogs more time in unihemispheric sleep when their upper face eyes open and the corresponding brain hemisphere more active. Other birds have been shown to catch G in mid-migration, while undertaking non-stop transverse flights up to 10 days. Freaking birds either sleep with one or both hemispheres at a time. They do so in second-month bursts, usually while reading occurs. But the freak bird sleep less than 8% of what they would on land, suggesting a greater tolerance for sleep deprivation. It's currently unclear whether asymmetric sleep possesses the same benefit as sleep in both hemispheres and how they vary across the species. In one experiment, bird seals rely on asymmetrical sleep while they are constantly stimulated. But in coverage, they show a strong preference to sleep across both hemispheres, suggesting it was more restorative for them. Dolphins, on the other hand, have been observed to maintain high levels of alertness for at least 5 days. By switching which hemisphere is awake, they get several hours of deep sleep in which hemisphere throughout the 24-hour period. This may be why unihemispheric sleep alone meets their needs. So, what about humans? Have you ever woken up growing after your first night in a new place? Part of your brain might spend the night only somewhat asleep. For decades, scientists have recognized that participants sleep poorly their first night in the lab. It's actually customary to toss out the night's data. In 2016, scientists discovered that this first night effect is a very subtle version of asymmetric sleep in humans. They saw that during the first night, participants experienced a deeper sleep in their right hemisphere and the lighter spirit in their left. When exposed to infrequent sound, their lighter sleep left hemisphere showed greater bumps in activity. Participants also woke up and responded to infrequent sound faster during the first night than they experienced a deep sleep in the both hemispheres during nights follow. This suggests that, like other animals, humans use asymmetric sleep for vigilance, especially in unfamiliar environments. So, while your hotel room is obviously not trying to eat you, and you're not going to die if you don't continue moving, your brain is still keeping you alert, just in case. This is another video. What causes insomnia? What keeps you up at night? Pondering deep questions, excited about a trip, or is it stress about unfinished work and a comic test, or a dreaded family gathering? For many people, this stress is temporary, as its cause is quickly resolved. But what if the very thing keeping you awake was stress about losing sleep? This seemingly unsolved blue is at the heart of insomnia, the world's most common sleep disorder. Almost anything can cause the occasional restless night, a snoring partner, physical pain, or emotional distress. An extreme sleep deprivation like jet lag can throw off your biological clock, wreaking havoc on your sleep schedule. But in most cases, sleep deprivation is short-term. Eventually, exhaustion catches up with all of us. However, some longer conditions like respiratory disorders, gastrointestinal problems, and many others can overpower fatigue, and as sleep nights pile up, the veteran can start to carry association of restless night, wracked with anxiety. Come bedtime, insomnias are stressed. So stressed their brain hijack the stress response system, flooding body with the fight, flight, or freeze chemicals. Cortisol and adrenergic hormones course through the bloodstream, increasing heart rate and blood pressure, and jolting the body into the hyperarousal. In these conditions, the brain is hunting for potential threats, making it impossible to ignore and a slight discomfort or nighttime noise. And when insomnia finally does fall asleep, the quality of their rest is compromised. Our brain's primary source of energy is cerebral glucose, and in healthy sleep, our metabolism slows to conserve this glucose for waking hours. But PET studies show the adrenaline that prevents sleep for insomnias also speed up their metabolism. While they sleep, their bodies are working overtime, burning through the brain's supplies or energy-giving glucose. This in turn, poor sleep leaves insomniacs waking in states of exhaustion, confusion, and stress, which start the process all over again. When this cycle of stress and restlessness lasts several months, they are diagnosed as chronic insomnia. And while insomnia rarely leads to death, its chemical mechanisms are similar to anxiety attacks, found in those with congestion and anxiety. So suffering from any one of these conditions increases your risk of experiencing the other two. Fortunately, there are ways to break the cycle of sleepiness. Managing stress that leads to hyperarousal is one of our best understood treatments for insomnia, and good sleep practices can help rebuild your relationship with bedtime. Make sure your bedroom is dark and comfortably cool to minimize threat during hyperarousal. Only use your bed for sleeping, and if you're restless, leave the room and tire yourself off with relaxing activity, like reading, meditating, or journaling. Regulate your metabolism by setting consistent resting and wake times to help orient your body's biological clock. This clock, where the circadian rhythm is also sensitive to light, so avoid bright lights at night help to tell your body that it's time for sleep. In addition to these practices, some doctors prescribe medication to aid sleep, but there aren't reliable medications that help in all cases. And over-the-counter sleeping pills can be highly addictive, leading to the withdrawal of worrisome symptoms. But before seeking any treatments, make sure your sleepiness is actually due to insomnia. Approximately 8% of patients diagnosed with chronic insomnia are actually suffering from less common genetic problem called delayed sleep phase disorder, or DSPD. People with DSPD have a circadian rhythm significantly longer than 24 hours, putting their sleep habits out of sync with the traditional sleep hours. So while they have difficulty falling asleep at typical bedtime, it's not due to increased stress, and given the opportunity, they can sleep comfortably on their own delayed schedule. Our sleeping and waking cycle is delicate balance and one is vital to maintain for our physical and mental well-being. For all the reasons, it's worth putting the time and effort to sustain a stable bedtime routine. But try not to lose any sleep over it.